What's going on, guys? What's going on? So, I did a whole live today and my audio was messed up, but I'm gonna go back over again and, tell you guys what I was saying in the live earlier this morning. And I didn't realize that my audio was so messed up that, and I went to sleep right after the live because, I was traveling and I was in a time zone that is 12 hours plus ahead of New York Eastern Standard Time. So right now is where I was in Indonesia. Right now would be like 3 a.m. in the morning, and 3 a.m. Saturday morning, as opposed to 3 p.m. Friday evening now. So my body's still adjusting back to my regular time zone. So that's why I have been sleeping so much and trying to get my adjustment back, but I'm slowly getting there. If you guys was watching the news earlier this morning. The jobs report were out. Very hot job numbers. The numbers were up for the past few months, and unemployment rate is up too. And because of the high job numbers and the 10-year yield spike above uh, 4.53. And you guys know that the 10-year yield is one of the most important financial instruments in the United States. That really dictates a lot. So your mortgage rate is tethered to the 10-year yield. Your what else? Your credit card interest rate is tethered to the 10-year yield. Your car note interest rate is tethered to the 10-year yield, so on and so forth. It's one of the most important financial instruments um, in the country that dictates a whole lot as it relates to financial well-being and financial stability of the country. That being said, um, people. That being said, with these job numbers are up. People are still feeling the pinch because of the high energy inflation we're having right now, and we all know that gas is all the way up there because of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East with Iran, and that really inflates a whole lot of stuff. Inflates gas, inflates, and that really trickles down, and that inflation trickles down into food prices and transportation, so on and so forth. So, fun fact, you know that uh, if you're buying a house, so for example, as I said before, the mortgage rate is tethered to the 10-year yield, right? And I think the last time I checked, the mortgage rates were like up like 5 point something, like almost six, six and a little bit, maybe six and like 30 basis points or something like that. So the 10-year yield takes that. And if you guys know that when you sign up for a mortgage to buy a house, and when you get into this house, you're gonna pay 3 times for the house if you ever go the 30-year mortgage route. For example, the house you're buying is $400,000 now. That's around the average price for a house now in the United States, give or take. And you sign up for a 30-year mortgage at 5.9%, 5.6%, whatever it is. You're gonna end up paying $1.2 million for that house in mortgage rates over the next 30 years. That's just how the math goes. Check it up if you don't believe me, do your research. But that's just how it goes. Over the years, that's how much you're gonna pay over the next 30 years for that $400,000 house, $1.2 million. That's just how it is. So, and you pay a degree more depending on how high the mortgage rates are, and the mortgage rates are dictated by how high the 10-year yield is. And as we speak right now, the 10-year yield is sitting above 4.5%. And if you guys see, the market is selling off. The last time I checked, the NASDAQ was down at least 800 points. The Dow Jones was down um, around 400 points, and the S&P 500 was down around 100 and something points. So that little jerk in the job numbers, that in turn hike spike the 10-year yield, is causing the market to sell off. And again, a lot of other stuff is causing the market to sell off too. It's just not one factor, but that's just a part of this broader sell off today. You understand? So that's what's going on today. So we all know that the United States, in association with Mexico and Canada, is rolling out the red carpet for the upcoming 2026 Soccer World Cup games in the summertime. It is right around the corner, very, very close around the corner. And, quietly, the United States have been doing a lot of small upgrades to the transportation infrastructure, the airport, the major highways and byways that lead into and from the airports. For example, I've gone through JFK quite a bit over the last few months because I was traveling, and you know, JFK is one of the major hubs to get international flights to different continents, South America, Europe, and whatever. JFK is one of the major hubs to get flights out of the country to different continents. And the roads and highways around the airport, they have been quietly fixing them. Like major upgrades, like resurfacing the asphalt, and some of the roads are getting widened. They're widening some of the roads, and they're turning some of the roadways into one ways, and just a little upgrades just to help with the influx of traffic coming in because of the World Cup games. Because you know that the final is going to be at the MetLife Stadium, New York, New Jersey, and that's one of the major hubs where people is going to fly in to New York City to get to the MetLife Stadium, and they're going to go through JFK. So they want to make sure that the roads are clear, the roads are up to date, and they just want to make that. But while they're doing that, at the same time, the government rolling out the red carpet, fixing up making all these infrastructure changes and infrastructure development, people here are quietly leaving, and no one is talking about that. People are quietly leaving. They're tapped out, even though we have a great job number today. The unemployment rate is still above 4.3%. And mind you, that doesn't count for people within the economy who are not actively seeking employment. So that just counts for the people the people who are in the economy who are actively seeking employment. There are some people who just literally gave up and trying to find a job. There are some people just minus and just subtract themselves from the labor force, and because they figure out that, hey, listen, why am I putting myself through this stress to get a job and maintain a job and get in this minimum wage when the minimum wage is not doing anything for them? And what I mean, the minimum wage not doing anything for them, if you look at gas recently, you look at food prices recently, a lot of people now are taking the alternative just to sit down at home, especially those younger folks, younger adults who live with their parents, or maybe, you know, in their parents' basement and stuff like that, who doesn't have too much responsibility. They're just like taking it up on themselves just to just stay home because they'd rather stay home, play video games, or do sports betting just to make a little money, or live streaming, or just try to get into something that they like and that they see they could generate some future income from, instead of going out there in the labor force and slave away for peanuts that they can't even use to buy anything of value, or use to to sustain their livelihood because of the current rolling inflation rate. So I don't think this inflation is sticky. There's definitely inflation. It's an energy inflation because energy really dictates everything. When high oil prices are up, that trickles down into high diesel prices. and then high food prices, so there's a little inflation, going on right now. And as I believe as soon as the war stops, or as soon as the government get a deal with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz is reopened, then we'll see gas prices go down momentarily, and then you'll see all the other trickle down effect as a result of gas prices going down within the economy. With that being said, people just find it hard just to work a regular job and maintain a regular job, and because they think that a regular, well, not that they think, the numbers are showing that people are struggling and people are not working jobs, and the unemployment rate is going up, so on and so forth. So let's come full circle back to the World Cup game. So yes, everything is getting in order for the World Cup. We're gonna host a whole lot of countries here, and you would think that, hey, Jermaine, like, all right, the World Cup is coming to the United States. That in itself would create some jobs, some opportunities for people within the service industry, within the hospitality industry, within the restaurants and stuff like that. Yes, that's absolutely true. Yes, that should create some opportunity, some short-term um, employment within these industries. Now, if you go on Airbnb right now, or bookings.com, any one of those platforms, to search up accommodation in any one of the major cities the World Cup, that a World Cup game is going to be held, or any one of the major cities within the country, you'll see that the rates are up. These rooms are booked out, and it's definitely going to be expensive to get any room in any one of those metro areas or geographic location within the United States where a World Cup game is going to be held, or where you know the state close to the games. So you'll see that those rooms are those areas are booked up. So yes, if you are within this economy right now and you have an Airbnb within any one of those vicinities where the games are going to be held, you're going to be winning right now, because you're going to be booked up. And if you're smart, and I said again, if you're smart, you will try to make some accommodation for added services too, if you're Airbnb owner. So you might want to, because you have to really hustle now. You might want to add like some breakfast service. You might want to, because a lot of these people coming in are from Europe. These people are soccer fans. They're from Europe. They're from South America. They're from the Middle East. You know, they don't want to stay in a hotel. They probably stay in a hotel too, but the hotel's rates are probably up. So they might, you know, try to stay under the Airbnb. And if you have an Airbnb, if you're smart, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna make some additional services. You're gonna offer some additional services um, to in conjunction with your accommodation at your Airbnb. Maybe breakfast, uh, catering, something. Just to make that money. So that's how you're operating within this economy. And but a lot of people don't see it like that. A lot of people see that, okay, they don't have the means of attracting any type of income from this worldwide event that's going to be happening right here at your doorstep. So, they're not gonna get any benefit from these economical activities that's gonna be occurring anytime. And you know, going through it right now in a way where, one second, I'm having some technical difficulties right now. One second, let me see if my thing is still on. Yes, I think I might be still live. Type in the chat, guys, if I'm still live. I'm kind of having some difficulties. I'm not sure what's going on But if I'm still live, let me know if I'm still live. If you guys hearing me, you could just type a one. If not, let me know. I'm just driving and doing my live. Um, so, anyways, what I was saying was, think about it. Average American right now will not be able to go to any one of these games and sit down and enjoy the game live. Most, and I bet you, most Americans are going to be watching the games from the comfort of their home, or from the comfort of a bar, or from the comfort of a lounge, or somewhere within the country, because it is highly, extremely unaffordable for the average American now to go and watch one of those games live. And coupled with driving or flying to one of these destinations with a couple, and actually trying to seek accommodation if you want to go to a game that is not within the vicinity of your state, coupled with all the other expenses and the ticket price, of course, for the game, is really unaffordable right now for the average American. So I don't think the average American gonna be um, watching any of those games live at all. They're just gonna be watching it from the comfort of their house and just chilling home because it's unaffordable, guys. Be real, be real. It is unaffordable right now. In 2021, 2022, yes, I think that people would be able to go because the helicopter money was flowing then. And don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong at all. People are making, some people right now within the country are making a killing. Yes, some people are making a killing, but the majority are really, really having a hard time just to stay afloat. And that's why they are leaving in record numbers, because when the average guy looked at the fact that they can pay a fraction of the price that they're paying here in the United States for accommodation and for housing and or rent, and a fraction of the price for food, for medication, for all the basic human necessities, they could pay a fraction of the price that they would pay here in the States abroad. A lot of people are electing to move abroad. I was just traveling overseas a few months ago in the months of April and in the months of May, and I can't count on my hands how many people I met, and the common conversation among us are how many. I can't count how many people I met from developed nations like the West, like Europe, Canada, the States here, and Australia, and so on and so forth. And the common conversation that we all have is how unaffordable the West is getting, and how attractive some of these countries are looking because of the affordable living, the great quality of life, the good food, the quality of the foods, etc., that are there present in, for example, Peru that I was in a few months ago, and I've met people who are from the States. And another example, like the Indonesia that I was just recently in, and I met people from all over, and they were saying, "Hey, this is a great place to stay." I was talking to a guy, and he was like, "Hey, I took a 3 months holiday 15 years ago to come to Bali, Indonesia, just to clear my mind for 3 months. I was going through a whole lot, and that was 15 years ago, and he's still there today, living there because you know the opportunities that are there and the low cost of living and the opportunities that present present themselves to him and how he's taking advantage of it and living there, stress, not stress free, but like the quality of life is overall different. You know, the standards might be different from the States, yes, because you have all these necessities here in terms of like technology and stuff like that, but nothing beats a good, healthy, quality life where you get good, wholesome, nutritious food that is not plagued by chemicals and unconventional farming habits that we utilize here in the United States. And that's one of the major things that are driving people out. The food is garbage and you're paying premium for the garbage food anyway. So you just like paying yourself to the grave, pretty much. So as I said, that's a common conversation I have with people outside of the states that I met in different countries, and that's how it is. And people leaving here to go over there to set up and like be be get their finances together and set up businesses, like but and again, the media won't highlight this. The media won't highlight this at all. And there's a bunch of factors why they won't, which I won't get into that. I save that um, I save that for another conversation for another day. But they won't get into it because of whatever reasons. However, the fact still remains that um, the United States is getting hammered as it relates to cost of living. You understand? Really get it hammered as it relates to cost of living. For today, which is June 5th, and on June 12th, I believe, one of the biggest private company here in the United States is gonna be listed on the public market, and that company is called SpaceX. It's a rocket company, and the valuation at IPO is gonna be $1.75 trillion. That's one of the biggest IPO ever in the United States history. Now, Elon Musk is one controversial um, individual. Say what you like, want about this guy, he have some ways, and but this dude made hundreds of thousands of millionaires. Like a lot of people who work with this dude, hundreds of millionaires, some billionaires as well. And you know, from an investment standpoint, he favors the retail investors because he rely heavily on the retail investors when no one else, no institution, no one else believed in what he was doing as a entrepreneur and as a CEO. For example, Tesla, when Tesla uh, was in his low days and almost failed, the retail investor was the ones who really really come to Tesla's rescue in regards to like they rallying around the stock and buying the stock, etc. and stuff like that. So he really looked out for the retail investor regarding this IPO, and people who invested earlier in SpaceX are now millionaires and billionaires depending on what magnitude invested in the company at, and how much your seed capital was. So this dude has made a lot of millionaires and a couple of billionaires. Say what you want about him, but the facts still remain. Breaking news: the Nasdaq is down 4%. Wow, that's crazy. Chips are selling off as well. I don't know why the market is down today. I don't know. I think that people are selling off their stock just to get involved with the SpaceX IPO. They're selling all the chip stock that were running hot just to get in the SpaceX IPO. I believe that. But as I was saying earlier, I think Elon really um make a lot of millionaires and billionaires, and you know, it is what it is. Say what you want about him. You might not like him, but it is what it is. And you know, that's just how it is going on. But coming Monday, coming the 12th, I'm sorry, coming the 12th, the SpaceX is gonna list it publicly, and we shall see what happened after that. But one thing to note is this guy's net worth. I'm not saying money he has in the bank. I'm saying net worth. So one thing we need to get before I say this, one thing a lot of people don't understand is that net worth is different from money you have in the bank. So I heard a lot of people saying earlier last year or years ago, or some time ago, when Elon was in the news a lot, and what he was doing at Doge, and people were saying, "Oh, this guy has 300 billion in the bank." Come on now, really? Are you guys that stupid? Who has $300 billion sitting around in the bank? No, he doesn't have $300 billion in the bank. He has a net worth of $300. His assets altogether value around $300 billion. So at any point in time, he can leverage his assets. That's his stocks and his ownership in his companies and whatever assets he has. At any point in time, he can leverage those and get money from the bank. But he doesn't have $300 million, $300 billion in the bank. He has $300 billion worth of assets. Now, I'm saying this after the SpaceX IPO, Elon net worth is going to be over $800 billion, or close to $1 trillion. Just put that in perspective for a second. One man on the face of this earth, worth, net worth, is close to $1 trillion. That's something to think about. That's absolutely mind-boggling, right? Almost $1 trillion. He outpaced everyone by leaps and bounds. No one is close to Elon's net worth. I think the closest person to Elon's net worth is, I want to say, is who is it? Maybe Jeff Bezos, and Jeff is around 200 and something billion dollars. But Elon is going to be almost $1 trillion. That's absolutely crazy. He might be the first trillionaire we have on the face of this earth. So the reason why I said that is because we don't understand the financial game that much. A lot of us don't, and we just run with anything. Really, we just run with anything. And you know, a lot of people who are winning now within the economy, they sow the seeds earlier in their lives, or not even that earlier. I know people who sow seeds in 2020 when the helicopter money, as I stated before, was going around, and when the government was printing dollar bills by leaps and bounds and just distributing it to everyone. You know, not a lot of people really took advantage of that and really invest those monies. A lot of people become massive consumers, and a lot of people ignore their debt obligation from a student loan perspective, from a personal loan perspective. A lot of people was just trying to have their loans forgiven, trying to get their loan forgiven, and trying to find any and every way just to get out of repaying their debts. But now it's time of catch up on people, because a lot of people spend all that free money that they were being given. I remember days people were getting so much money, man, that they decided not to go back to work because the money they were getting from the government was better than actually working. So a lot of people choose not to work, and a lot of people just stayed home and do all that stuff and consume. Now, listen, I know a guy that was on a podcast, a very famous guy on YouTube. His name is Anton Daniels, and he was into cars or something like that. And he was like, "Yo, when I went to the dealerships, like whatever dealerships, Corvette or the Lambo or whatever, they were sold out. And the reason why they were sold out was because people were buying these cars. People were, especially the Hellcats. Hellcats were dealerships were sold out, gone, because people were just buying these cars because they're getting the free money and they're spending the money. But at the same time, they didn't care to take care of the student loan debts, and they were looking for student loan forgiveness and all of that stuff. But now it came full circle, bite them in the ass because right now, on top of getting pinched in this economy, a lot of people have mountains of student student loan debt knocking at the door, and they're fighting hard to get student loan forgiveness, and they were inside. Just check this out. There were actually people renting houses, renting apartments or houses, and they were not paying rent for at least 6 to 8 months uh, after the whole thing that happened during 2021, 2022, and 2020. So on top of not paying any rent at all, and on top of not paying their debts, they were just banking that money and they were just consuming. People were eating out every day. People wasn't cooking. People was just running it up, like eating out, restaurants, um, Gucci, Louis, everything. They were just running it up. They were just balling. They were just flossing. But now life come full circle and biting some of those people in the asses. And now some of them are the ones that who are complaining a whole lot. Trust me, it is hard out here. It is hard. But they are the ones who are complaining a whole lot right now and trying to blame everyone else, but look, except looking in the mirror and see that, listen, like you fuck yourself over. You screw yourself over by not doing the things that are in the best, that, are in your best interest. When you get a chance to really level up and make some great decisions, you take that time to be a consumer of nonsense. So that's what's reaching a lot of people now. And I do understand that a lot of young adults who are having it hard too are just not motivated. And they went to colleges and schools to get an education, but the education they have received, you know, is, really lackluster because I think most young people in schools and colleges now are being scammed because universities and colleges now are not a place of higher education anymore. Universities and school have slowly become an indoctrination camp, and the degrees they're giving people or the degrees they're enrolling people into, they don't really be straight up and honest with people and telling these people that, like, listen, this is your projected income you can make from enrolling in this degree, and you might not be able to make the income over your lifespan, from a job, from a job you get by having this degree to pay for the loans you took out to get this degree in the first place. So what I'm trying to allude to is that however you take it, you're going to be underwater by enrolling in some of these degrees because they're so expensive, and you will not make the money to repay the debt you took out to get that degree in the first place. So that's how a lot of people are scammed. That's how a lot of young people are scammed. and on top of being getting into these schools and getting indoctrinated and getting you know I don't know. It is just crazy. Some of the stuff I want to say, YouTube has, this algorithm that really tracks what you say, and but I don't want to get into that right now. That might be another conversation for another day. However, that's what's happening now. So some of those people now are catching on, and they want to leave, and they will leave, and they're leaving, a matter of fact. And that's some of those people's problems because they get these degrees that worth nothing but just a piece of paper saying you get into this, but those degrees didn't really teach them any value at all in how to become an entrepreneur or how to make something of yourself, how to manufacture something, or how to produce something. It's just a bunch of bureaucratic nonsense and you know nonsense. Nothing science, math, or engineering or technology related that really drive in the future. Some of those degrees are really lackluster from that standpoint. But those people are catching on now and realizing that this system was really a scam, and they're being scammed because they're told to take out loans of hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get a very poor and demoralizing education that will not make them an income in the future. For something like gender studies and a bachelor's in gender studies or a bachelor's in art, a bachelor's in artistic studies, and what is that? What are you gonna make from that? You know, just it's just bizarre, man. But anyways, uh, what I'm trying to say is that that's some of the mistakes we made, and and it's very hard right now, and a lot of young people lack the motivational skills and lack the discipline and also lack the commitment and perseverance to really navigate themselves through this very bizarre, weird times we're facing right now as a country in the States. And, there are 50 states here in the Union, and there are a bunch of opportunities spread out all over these 50 states. And, you can get up anytime you want and move to another location, that really present much more opportunity than what you're currently getting at your current location. For example, Florida now is becoming one of the most attractive states in the union because of their tax laws. Like the governor of Florida realized that taxes are organized theft, and they're slowly eliminating taxes on a broad range of spectrum. For example, they're trying to get rid of the property taxes. Nobody should be paying property taxes in Florida. They're trying to get rid of that. And they don't have an state income tax. And they don't have, I think they don't have like a taxes on foods and stuff you buy from the grocery store. I'm not sure. I'm not a, I'm not sure. But based on what I'm reading, Florida is getting rid of a bunch of unnecessary taxes that other states really have. And that's attractive because there's no way someone who makes, for example, in New York, a nurse that makes 72 to $80,000 a year, paying $12,000 out of that income per year in taxes. That's just wrong. And that's just one example, but across a broad range of spectrum, that's how it is. We're getting squeezed from taxes. And the reason why we're getting squeezed from taxes is because of these government unnecessary spending and this government lack of responsible stewardship over our tax dollars. They just don't care. They just spend it how they see fit, and they just do a whole bunch of nonsense with our tax dollars. And because they're doing so much nonsense with it, they are increasingly requiring more and more revenue within their coffers, and that's why our taxes are going up and up and up and up and up. Not because they are we're reaping any meaningful rewards from paying this huge amount of taxes. It's just because the government is mismanaging the money so much that they just want more and more and more and more and more. But that's what's going on, guys. People are leaving the states like crazy in record numbers. The news won't show it. Uh, Nobody will be telling the truth, and you just have to see it. When you travel outside of the United States and you meet up with people from the West and people from here, and you see how many people you'll run into in other countries that are from the United States, or they're in those countries for years and years and just living there, and you have a conversation over a drink, and or just chilling out, have a conversation, you'll figure out that, like, man, wow, I thought United States was a land of milk and honey. Why are so many people leaving? So that's just it, guys. Please remember, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. Click that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop any content, guys. And I'm just shedding light on some of these issues that people don't see what's going on. And record people are leaving, and it is what it is. And because they're tapped out, the economy is really fickle right now. A lot of people winning, a lot of people not winning. The gap is getting even wider as we speak. And yeah, that's it, guys. So I'm really looking forward for the World Cup games. I'm a big soccer fan. What? We don't call it soccer in Jamaica. We say football. You guys call football the handball you throw, but we don't do that. We say football in Jamaica. So I'm a big football fan, man. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to the World Cup games, and I want to see the final. I think Spain's gonna be in the final. Yamin Amal is phenomenal, and I think he's gonna take Spain to the finals, and this is gonna be his first World Cup final as a young dude, and I'm looking forward to that, and I will be going to that final match over there in MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. Thank you guys for watching. You don't have to watch, but please remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, click my notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop anything, man. So this is your boy Jermaine Views. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.